Eat, eat, eat. That guttural voice in your ear sets your heart pounding. You run through the forest, every muscle screaming in protest, but you can't stop. The cannibal at the north end of the world is right behind you, his 1,000 mouths gnashing in anticipation of consuming you. You regret ever going into the woods. From the moment you saw his house in the clearing, its blood-red smoke rising from the smoke hole, you were doomed. You just didn't know it yet. The deep croak of a raven sounds behind you and startles you so much that you trip over a root and fall sprawled out on the ground. You scramble onto your back, trying to get up, hearing him right behind you, breathing on your neck. The last thing you see is the gnashing, bloody mouths. Come with me to learn about the scariest fairies in the world. I have spent years attempting to make the most complete global encyclopedia of fairies, and for this video I have gone through them all to find the most horrifying fairies ever to roam the earth. Before we get started though, the like button has been drained of likes through a hole in their skull. To restore them, hit that sub button with a concoction of burnt armpit hair collected during the lunar eclipse. A little clarification before we sink our teeth into this list. There are many haunting creatures throughout mythology, but I am limiting this list to those that meet my definition of fairy. This means that types of humans, such as witches, and some types of vampires and werewolves, as well as the undead, have been excluded from this video. All of the beings in this video are their own distinct thing, non-human in every way, but also not a god or a goddess. Many of them were conceived of by the cultures that believed in them as their own species. Now let's begin, starting with the least scariest on the list, and going all the way to the fairy I consider to be the most terrifying of all time. The woman sits up on the couch, having been awoken by some sound. A dark, hairy arm reaches through the open window and into the living room. A pair of red eyes gleam in the darkness. Her scream pierces the night air. In Fouke, Arkansas, reports of a red-eyed Sasquatch-like being have been reported for decades. The most famous incident occurred in 1971 when a broad, hairy creature, approximately 7 feet tall with red eyes, attempted to carry off Fouke resident Bobby Ford. He got away but had to be treated at a local hospital for minor scratches and shock. His wife Elizabeth also claimed to see the Fouke monster when it reached through their living room window. Since then, there have been many other sightings. One woman, Reba Killian, recounted seeing the Fouke monster when she was a little girl. 7.5 to 8 feet tall, and we just started screaming. We were banging on the truck, trying to get our parents to stop because we were kids. Nobody was going to believe us. And we used to run these woods all the time in between my house and her house. After that, I said, no more. I'm not going back in those woods. It could have snapped us like a twig if it wanted to. Now, I will admit the Fouke monster is probably the least alarming being on this list, and I mostly included it because this is the only cryptid location I've ever personally visited. My family drove up to Fouke, Arkansas together. It was corny, but it was also kind of cool. We all bought postcards at the Monster Mart that was full of Fouke monster merch. On screen is my postcard. But I promise, it only gets scarier from here. The kids enter the old, abandoned temple under the waning light of a crescent moon. They think they are alone. Then a mass of pink flesh emerges from the darkness. 100 yellow eyes open to stare at them. Hyakume, meaning 100 eyes in Japanese, is a yokai that haunts abandoned temples, graveyards, homes, and caves. They look like lumps of pink flesh covered with 100 yellow eyes. Their eyes can detach from their bodies and stick to a person's body, keeping an eye out for criminal activity. Once the Hyakume has determined that the person is not going to rob the location, the eye returns to them. Despite their horrifying appearance, they're harmless, simply guarding their homes with their 100 eyes. Still, I wouldn't want to meet one alone on a dark night. Wing beats sound through the forest. The young hunter runs for his village. Suddenly, it swoops in front of him. Fiery eyes meet his, and he freezes, breath caught in his throat. Then the flying head lunges forward, its razor-sharp fangs gleaming in the darkness. Some say they have always existed, hunting and eating humans. Others say that humans can become flying heads if they eat human flesh. Still others say that flying heads are born from violent murders, rising from their graves to enact vengeance. Flying heads come from the mythology of the Haudenosaunee and Wendat peoples of North America. They are, as the name suggests, flying heads. They have long black hair, fiery eyes that strike fear into the hearts of those that see them, razor-sharp fangs, and in some stories, bat wings protruding from their cheeks, and bird talons. In other versions, they fly without the aid of wings at all. In all versions of the myth, they prey on humanity. They are also associated with whirlwinds. In 1790, a Kanengeha man named Captain Gill claimed that a flying head haunted a hill behind the Hamilton County Courthouse at the foot of Indian Head Mountain in New York State. This flying head had terrorized a village that had once existed on that hill. It's even said that flying heads are still seen today. The man hears a whistle behind him. Long, thin arms push him off the cliff. He hits the ground in a twisted heap, dead. They call him Ste-ye-hah'mah, the spirit hidden under the cover of the woods in the Hyakume language. They dwell in the tangled timber falls of the Cascade Mountains on the west coast of North America. A whistling sound can be a warning of their arrival. Ste-ye-hah'mah are deadly and don't take kindly to trespassers. Sometimes they kill them. In other tales, they stalk their prey, waiting until they are exhausted and then capturing them, stripping them naked and tying them up. Anyone captured by the Ste-ye-hah'mah are lucky to escape with their lives. Everything about them makes them great hunters and better suited to the wilderness than even the most seasoned outdoors person. They are swifter than humans and may even have magic that can render them invisible. According to the writings of L.V. McWhorter, nothing can get away from them. Nothing can escape them. They don't need to warm their homes, and given that they hunt at night, they presumably have better night vision than humans. Perhaps even more hauntingly, though, are the ways the Ste-ye-hah'mah are like humans. They can use bows and even guns, and wear clothes made of bearskin. Ste-ye-hah'mah remind me in some ways of Appalachian Pharaoh people. Are they humans, or something else? The young woman is jogging up the trail, enjoying the natural beauty. Then she hears a sound like a branch snapping behind her. She whirls around. She thought that she was all alone. That's when she sees him watching her from the tree line, naked, unkempt, feral. Are there really feral people living in Appalachia and the national parks of the USA, or are they just an urban legend? This topic, frankly, is huge enough to warrant its own video, but spooky enough to be included here. Much like the Ste-ye-hah'mah, the feral people sit in that uncanny valley, straddling the line between human and inhuman. Reports of wild men in the region date back to the 1800s at least. In 1889, the New York Times published this wild man story. The citizens of Walker County, Georgia, a few miles from this city, are very much excited over the existence of a genuine wild man who haunts the mountain region of the county. He is described as being of gigantic stature, covered with a thick growth of hair, and carries in his hand a huge, knotted stick. He looks as if he might be the twin brother of Barnum's wild man, and is fierce and untamable. This modern Orson has been seen by several parties. One gentleman, bolder than the rest, encountered the creature in a lonely part of the mountains one day, not long ago since, and at a safe distance endeavored to strike up a conversation. A perfect shower of stones greeted his first words, and thinking discretion the better part of valor, he made tracks from the dangerous neighborhood. This description also sounds similar to Bigfoot, but there is considerable overlap between Bigfoot and feral people. Barnum's wild man seems to refer to the wild men of Borneo. Now they were a hoax. They were ordinary humans named Hiram and Barney Davis. However, looking at their story can give us an idea of what people of the time thought of when they said wild men, and it is strikingly similar to modern stories of feral people. The Davis brothers spoke in a made-up feral language, were very strong and very hairy. On screen is a promotional image from 1894 where you can see their long hair, and this photo from the 1870s shows them with wild beards. And there were many other wild men sightings in the 1800s, like the wild man of Camas from Idaho. He was described as having long black hair and a long beard, long finger and toenails that resembled claws, and a massive head. He wore a crude robe made of rabbit skins. A hunter killed him with an axe. All of this was reported in an 1883 article of the Southern Standard, and some have linked the disappearance of Dennis Martin in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee to the feral people, although that has most likely been debunked. But many in the modern era claim to have seen feral people. You can find many such stories online. Many of these tales report that the feral people are cannibals, are superhumanly fast, have a putrid smell, and may be inbred. Are they a distinct race, or inbred humans living off the grid? Who can say? The man walks along the beach under the light of the full moon. He hears a horse neigh, and he turns to see a skinless horse with the upper body of a skinless man emerging from the sea. veins of black blood carved through his red flesh. His single red eye stares straight into the man's soul, freezing his blood. This horrifying creature is the Scottish Nuckelavee, a skinless aquatic centaur. His very breath is toxic, causing disease, drought, and destroying crops. In the legends, he emerges from the oceans around the Orkney Islands during the summer. He can be warded off by the smell of burning seaweed. He can't cross fresh water and can also be driven back to the sea by rainfall. Ga, ga, ga. The woman freezes at the quiet call. She's coming. She looks frantically around the kitchen. The door opens and the bird-headed woman enters. She removes a large pair of gleaming metal scissors from a basket on her back. The woman backs up in a panic, her back hitting up against the kitchen table behind her. The scissors puncture her abdomen and then splay her stomach open. January 5th, in the Rauris Valley in Salzburg, Austria, the Schnabelperchten stalk the streets. They appear as women dressed in cardigans, patched women's smocks, and have humpback baskets, large scissors, needles, thread, and brooms. They have massive, eyeless bird beak heads. Schnabelperchten travel from home to home, making sure the houses are clean. If your home is clean, the visit will give you good fortune. But if your home isn't clean, they will cut your stomach open with their massive scissors and stuff your garbage into the gaping wound. This ancient pre-Christian ritual is immortalized in a ritual still performed today, where women dressed as Schnabelperchten parade through the streets on January 5th. On screen are some photos of the parade. I'll be honest, even knowing these are costumes, they still look eerie. Major folk horror vibes. The student's bladder cramps. She can't hold it. She has to find the restroom now. An out-of-order sign sits outside the women's restroom. She races across the campus to reach the older, more rarely used restroom. People say it's haunted, she thinks, but she doesn't care. Once inside the restroom, though, she regrets her choice. Someone calls out, "Do you want red paper or blue paper?" She chooses wrong, and her blood sprays across the bathroom, hemorrhaging so much that her corpse looks like it's wearing a red robe. There's something particularly creepy about a monster that preys on you when you're exposed and vulnerable in the restroom, and that's what Manto does. He's a yokai from Japanese urban legends. He appears in public restrooms and asks, "Do you want red paper or blue paper?" But it's a trick question. Choosing the red paper results in your bloody demise, but choosing the blue paper will doom you as well. All of the blood will be sucked out of your body, leaving your corpse blue and bloodless. Alternatively, choosing blue paper could get you strangled until your face turns blue. Choosing red paper can also get your skin flayed so it looks like a red cape. Is there any way to escape Manto? Most of the time, no. But occasionally saying, "I don't need any paper," will give the yokai pause, enabling the would-be victim to flee the restroom. She knows she's doomed when she hears the laugh behind her. She runs across the ice, her breath huffing out in puffs of white against the freezing air. But the laughter doesn't stop. Then she feels the icy claws on the back of her neck. If you thought that the Manto was terrifying, get a load of the Mahaha, a creature from Inuit mythology in North America. Their creepy laugh signals their arrival. Then they tickle their victims to death with their long, cold, clawed hands. Resembling a person dying of hypothermia, they are gaunt, with blue, frostbitten skin, but are nearly or completely naked and walk through the snow unaffected by the temperature. They have long, stringy black hair, white eyes, and a wide, unsettling smile. To add a layer of realism-induced horror, the Mahaha might be the embodiment of death via hypothermia. In the last stages of hypothermia, victims begin to feel warm and may engage in paradoxical undressing. Delirium may even cause some to die with smiles on their faces. The Mahaha looks as if someone who has just died of hypothermia got up and began to hunt humans, killing them in a way that is creepy, what with the laughing and tickling, but is also similar to death by hypothermia. This was a very real threat to the Inuit, living in some of the coldest areas on Earth, so it makes sense that they personified this threat in the Mahaha. The two travelers are lost. The old woman graciously let the travelers spend the night at their humble home. Some sense makes one of the men awaken in the middle of the night. He turns and sees one of the old women, crouched on top of the other traveler, licking his flesh off with an impossibly long, red tongue. The Mahaha kills by tickling and leaves the victim's body intact, but the Shitanaga leaves only bones. They lick every sinew, every organ from the corpse, leaving only a gleaming white skeleton. Hailing from Japan, this yokai's name means long-tongued old woman, which severely underplays the horror of this creature. They pose as harmless elderly women in the folktales, luring travelers into a false sense of security, and then while they sleep, they kill them by licking them to death. In one such tale, 2 travelers spend the night in the home of a Shitanaga Uba. One man awakens in the middle of the night and sees one of the old women licking his companion. A second yokai enters the home, and the man swings his sword at it. The entire house vanishes, leaving the man alone in an empty field. In the morning, he finds his companion's remains. Only a bleached, white skeleton. The sun is high in the sky, and the man has been working in the heat. He decides to take a nap under the shade of the tree by the river. As he snores, his mouth hangs open. A tiny, smooth-skinned, newt-like creature crawls into his open mouth and slides down his throat, making his way into the unsuspecting man's stomach. Ugh. This monster makes my skin crawl. The Irish joint eater, Alp-luachra, or just haver, sneaks into humans' bodies and then consumes half of everything they eat until they starve to death. Because they are fey creatures, they have glamour that prevents anyone from seeing them. One man had a dozen Alp-luachras inside him. There are ways to get them out, though. Sometimes the scent of savory food can lure them out. In other tales, eating large amounts of salted beef can make them come out. The woman thinks she's alone in her home. She carefully unties her hair, revealing a toothy mouth set into the back of her skull. Her hair winds into tentacles, begins to scoop up rice and feed the mouth. Watching out the window is the woman's husband. He feels his gut churn. His wife is not human. She is a yokai. The two-mouthed woman, Futakuchi Onna, is a creature from Japan. Her tale is often a version of the man marries a fairy woman with a strange, inhuman body part, in this case, a second mouth on the back of her head. We see this in other stories, such as the French Melusine who hid her fishtail then emerged when bathing, or the Japanese Yuki Onna who couldn't bathe because she would melt. But Futakuchi Onna can be far more horrifying than simply a woman with a second mouth. In one story, a woman starves her stepdaughter to death. The stepmother develops a splitting headache, and eventually a second mouth emerges from the back of her head. She is racked with hunger pangs until she feeds her second mouth, which speaks with the voice of her murdered stepdaughter. The man awakens in the middle of the night. There's a weight on his chest. He can't breathe. He can't speak. It's like he's frozen. Straddling him, her terrifying face mere inches away, is a skinless woman. He can feel his life force leaving him as he stares at her dark eyes. We're really heating up now. While Shitanaga Uba wait in remote areas for travelers, boo-hags actively hunt their prey. Coming from Gullah Geechee mythology in the southern U.S., these evil spirits take the form of women, wearing human skin suits to blend into society and marry mortal men. But at night, they shed their skin like snakes and go hunting. The way they hunt varies from story to story. In some stories, they act as sleep paralysis demons, sitting on the chests of their victims, often their human husbands, and suck out their life force or their blood. In some variants, they bridle the men and ride them like horses as they slowly kill them. In this way, they are also like succubi, but in my opinion, they are way more horrifying. In some tales, they can sicken entire towns, posing as humans by day and at night, slipping into homes if the window is left slightly open. Once inside, they sit on their victims and suck out their life force. But there are ways to defeat them. You have to find their human skin suit when they are out at night and fill the suit with salt, which will kill the boo-hag. You can also ward boo-hags away from your home by painting your home haint blue, which are pale shades of blue-green. The name comes from African American vernacular English and means haunt. Many old homes in the South have ceilings painted haint blue. I will leave with this quote from African American storyteller Donna Washington's The Boo Hag for PBS. He painted his entire house blue. He bought himself a lifetime supply of salt, 'cause he knows what I know. There's more than one boo hag in the world. The creature dangles upside down in the shadowy corner of the room, waiting for its prey. It hangs motionless for hours until the woman returns home. She enters the bedroom exhausted, not even looking at the dark corner. In a single lightning-fast motion, the monster grabs the woman before she can even scream, consuming her whole. These monsters, called the Gadajdu, live in a network of underground caves and tunnels. They look like skeletons covered in pale skin. They avoid the sun and come out at night in Malta to hunt. Gadajdu slip into homes squeezing through the smallest openings to enter, where they wait in the darkness. They remind me of the serial killer Toombs from X-Files, who could squeeze through any tiny opening to commit his murders. There's a sound like someone chopping with an axe. The man knows that if he stops, if he turns around, he will see the beating art of Yohualtepoztli, the night axe. The sound of an axe chopping in the night is the omen of Yohualtepoztli, a truly terrifying creature from ancient Mexican folklore. He resembles a headless man with his torso cut open, his chest splayed open like a pair of doors, revealing a pulsing heart. When Yohualtepoztli first appeared, no one was brave enough to follow the sounds of the axe chopping. But one day a brave warrior did. He seized the heart and asked for a favor from the ghost. It's said that if you are courageous, you will receive what you ask for. But if you flee from the monster, misfortune will follow you. The friends are determined to find out why their friend hasn't left his apartment recently. They bang on the door. Finally, he opens it. They attempt to convince him to come outside with them. She gets lonely, so I can't go out, the man tells him. What are you talking about? There's no woman here. The man points behind a dresser, seen further in the apartment behind him. She's in there. The friends look and see a woman standing, impossibly, in the gap between the dresser and the wall, staring right at them. This one is super eerie to me. The Gap Girl, a yokai that can fit into any gap. She seems to have first appeared in the Mimibukuro, an Edo period book. I've been able to read the original book, and there are two versions of the story from Mimibukuro. I will retell both here. In one version, a tea shop owner moves into a new building. On the second floor, one of the sliding doors won't open. A servant forces the door open and discovers a woman in the track of the sliding door. The servant is so startled that he runs away. In the other version, a young man living alone becomes convinced that someone is watching him. He eventually discovers the source. A woman was standing in the tiny gap between his dresser and the wall, staring right at him. In 2014, Sukima Onna became the star of a Japanese horror film, The Spirit Behind the Door, where a woman is haunted by a Sukima Onna. What's so creepy to me about Sukima Onna is that it feels like something you think you see in the middle of the night, out of the corner of your eye. The man skulks through the dark streets, bent double from the weight of the sack on his back. The child inside is heavy, but he can't stop. Can't let the little boy out. The woman told him he will be cured if he makes a poultice from the fat of a healthy child and drinks their blood. There are boogeymen all over the world, and many of them carry off children in sacks and bags. In all myths, he is a kidnapper of children. Sometimes he eats them. In Spanish-speaking parts of the world, he is El Hombre del Saco, the man with the sack. He steals naughty children. In Quebec, Canada, he is Bumum Setter, meaning the 7 o'clock man. He's a tall, lanky vagabond carrying a rough sack with which to carry off children. Sometimes he's depicted wearing a plague doctor mask. He's called the 7 o'clock man because he steals children who stay out after 7 p.m. He carries them off to his lair where he kills and eats the children, leaving nothing but their bones behind. In Eastern Europe, he's Jakosh Amber, also meaning the man with the sack. He too steals children who misbehave. And in Asia, he's On Bobby, Mr. Bobby, and many other names. The Vietnamese Mr. Bobby has 9 shoulders and 12 eyes. He abducts children, and his story may be linked to haunting real-life crimes. Kidnappers would travel in groups of 6 people. They would split into 3 small groups, with each group of 2 people carrying a large woven bag. Each sack has 3 handles, so there are 9 handles, and the whole group has 6 people, a total of 12 eyes. So some folklorists have linked these crimes to Mr. Bobby. Even more horrifying is this crime from 1910 in Gadajdu, Almeria, Spain. A man named Francisco Ortega was suffering from tuberculosis. He consulted with Agustina Rodriguez, a folk healer, and what she told him was harrowing. She instructed him to drink the blood of a healthy child and put a poultice of the child's fat on his chest. Francisco Leona, a barber, abducted a 7-year-old boy, Bernardo Gonzalez Parra, for Ortega. He then murdered the boy. Ortega drank his blood mixed with sugar and applied a poultice of the young boy's fat to his chest. They then buried the child in an unmarked grave. Law enforcement did ultimately find and capture Leona, Ortega, and Rodriguez, who were put to death. The woman is walking home alone. It's dark and the street is empty. Then a baby's cry pierces the silence. The woman looks around, concerned for the baby. She sees the child laying on the ground sobbing, seemingly abandoned. She runs to the baby and scoops it up, cooing comforting words. The baby's cries quiet as the woman tucks the baby against her chest. Then the child bites down on the woman's neck with sharp fangs. The woman screams, but it's too late. There's no one to hear her. She crumples to the ground as the infant sucks the blood from her throat. Babies are innocent, and seeing or hearing one isn't normally cause for alarm. Seeing an abandoned baby would make any of us feel compassion and concern, and that's what the Filipino Tiyanak preys on. They look like ordinary babies until they attack, revealing their sharp teeth, pointed ears, and bloodshot eyes. In some stories, they shed their skin before their assault. Everything about the Tiyanak is just chilling to me, because who wouldn't help a baby? The legend is likely pre-Christian in origin, but with the arrival of Catholicism, the myth changed slightly. Now Tiyanaks are sometimes said to be unbaptized stillborn infants, murdered infants, and even aborted babies. The giant crane cracks open the skull and begins to pick out the brains with its long beak. Behind the crane, the red cedar bark house belches blood-colored smoke. A raven flies up and lands next to the crane. The raven leans over and pulls the eyes out of the skull and swallows them. Eat, eat, eat. The crane and raven jerk to attention. Their master is arriving. The birds, Coax-Coax-Alanuxsiwae, the raven at the north end of the world, and Baxbakwalanuxsiwae, Hawk of the skies, master, Baxbakwalanuxsiwae, the cannibal at the north end of the world, from Kwakiwak folklore in North America. His entire body is covered in mouths, and he calls eat, 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 as he hunts his favorite prey, humans. He dwells in an eerie house whose hearth produces blood-red smoke. He lives there with his birds, his equally cannibalistic wife, Shitanaga, his slave, Kinkalalala, and his bird ogre guards, Gadajdu, Crooked Beak of the Sky, and Ninstalit, Grizzly Bear of the Door. According to the Kwakiwak people, a medicine man got captured by Shitanaga, but he managed to trick Baxbakwalanuxsiwae and his wife, luring them into a pit trap. They were incinerated, and this is where it gets really scary. The medicine man burned them to death, but they lived on as mosquitoes. When you think about all the death spread by mosquitoes, that makes this myth even eerier. I don't want to oversimplify this character though. He's an important, complex, and revered figure in Kwakiwak religion. It is also said that he is the guardian spirit at the north end of creation. The northern lights, rainbows, and the Milky Way are the smoke from his cooking fire. If he's a guardian, who is he guarding us from? The midwife runs out of the house, holding a bloody package. She falls to the ground and begins digging, attempting to bury the placenta set on the ground next to her. She knows she has to hurry before the Krasue comes for the new mother in the house behind her. A shadow falls over her, and she turns in horror to see a floating head with dangling bloody entrails hanging from her neck. Childbirth is a dangerous affair, and many die while giving birth. In the past, rates of death by childbirth were much, much higher than they are now. In Thailand, the Krasue, evil spirits that look like the severed heads of beautiful women with entrails hanging from their necks, are a particular threat for new mothers. A type of vampire, she prefers the blood of pregnant women and can be drawn by the scent of placentas. They must be buried to avoid breeding the Krasue. In some stories, the Krasue appears as a normal woman by day, but by night her head detaches so she can go out and hunt, similar to the Boo-hag. According to some, she doesn't only feed on blood, but all bodily secretions, including feces. The empty skin dangles from the branch, barely recognizable as human. The woman stares at the skin in horror. What could have caused this? It was as if something had liquefied and sucked out all the bones and tissue and organs, leaving only the skin behind. She hears a small sound behind her and whirls around in terror. The putrid-smelling sloth-like creature pounces on her. Its sticky body clings to her. She shrieks, unable to get free. A large proboscis looms over her face. It's the last thing she ever sees. The Colombian Amazon is a dangerous place full of deadly animals, but Abúhuwa is far worse than any of them. They puncture the skull and suck out the insides of their victims, leaving only a husk behind. They have a monstrous appearance and behavior. Abúhuwa have extra faces in the backs of their heads. The females prefer to kill men, and the males attack women. Like fairies in other parts of the world, they steal children. However, they kill the mothers when they take the children. These stolen children become cannibals themselves. Warren Benedito, a sci-fi and horror author, wrote a haunting story called No Bones, Just Skin about Abúhuwa. The story is free to read on his website and is linked in the description. Benedito's prose terrifyingly describes Abúhuwa's behavior, particularly in regards to child abduction, and the way they might brainwash the children to become man-eaters like them. The last thing she saw was Manuel, nursing contentedly on the female Abúhuwa's breast. His eyelids fluttered open. He looked directly at her. There was no flash of recognition, no hint of concern, just a small, satisfied smile as he watched her life slip away. It is also said that Abúhuwa were much more common long ago, but a series of floods and fires reduced their number. They can be warded off with a concoction of armpit hair collected during a lunar eclipse. The police burst into the shadowy basement, pointing guns at the gangsters. They order them to get on the ground and begin arresting them. Something on the table catches one officer's eye, a bottle filled with a thick, yellowish fluid. Testing would soon reveal this bottle was full of human fat. Are there gangs stealing human fat for cosmetics? Is there a cryptid stealing human fat in South America? Or is it all a smokescreen for the abuses perpetrated by governments? Pishtaco is a horrifying creature from Andean folklore. The name comes from the Quechan word pishte, which means to behead, cut the throat, or cut into pieces. Although the Pishtaco is very old and may predate European contact, the modern Pishtaco tends to appear as a white man, sometimes dressed as a Catholic priest or a doctor. This adds another layer to the Pishtaco's horror. It may also represent the evil and dehumanization inflicted on the native peoples by Europeans. He steals fat from the natives, sometimes with a special machine, and then sells the fat. According to John McDowell of Indiana University's Department of Folklore and Ethnomusicology, in the Andes it's thought that the vitality of the person is in the fat in their body. So the Pishtaco, they come after this vital force and deplete it. You could interpret the Pishtaco as representing Europeans stealing the vitality of the indigenous peoples. In 1571, Spanish priest Cristobal de Molina was accused of being a Pishtaco. People believed that he used human fat to grease his church bells. In the modern era, there are reports of Pishtacos attacking people and cutting their throats with a sickle-shaped knife, hanging them upside down by their feet, where their rendered fat drips into bowls below them. Ernesto Vasquez de la Guila writes, in Pishtaco's Human Fat Murders, Structural Inequalities and Resistances in Peru, that Pishtacos steal the fat with great mastery, using syringes, so that their work is unnoticeable. Their victims awaken without any symptoms or pain, but they get sick. They become gradually weaker, and after a few days, they die, without knowing the causes of their deaths. In 2009, police in Peru allegedly captured gang members who had harvested human fat to sell. However, the police were only able to prove that the gang had killed a single person. In that same region, though, over 60 people had vanished. Some have wondered if the Peruvian government made up the Pishtaco gang story to cover up mass executions by the government or cartel violence they were unable to stop. I'll leave you with this quote from Peruvian Pishtacos, Tales of Anti-Aging Cream and Other Rumors. Anthropologist Nancy Shepard Hughes theorized that Pishtaco stories, much like organ-stealing rumors, tend to arise in times of peace, but after a violent conflict. These rumors attempt to explain and predict the kind of violence faced by peasants today, but they may also be used by the state to hide corruption or neglect, and further consolidate control over citizens. The teenagers are walking home late at night. Suddenly they freeze. What is crouched on that roof? They see a massive pair of bat wings. Then the creature turns, and the teens see a woman with blood running down her chin. And the lower half of her body is gone. Her bloody entrails sway in the night air. The teens take off screaming. They have just seen the Manananggal. The name means self-separator and is derived from the Tagalog word tanggal, which means to separate. By day she appears as a gorgeous woman, and by night she leaves her lower half behind and flies off to hunt. She lands on the roofs of homes where pregnant women live, and then punctures the roof with her long tongue. Her hollow tongue penetrates the pregnant woman's stomach and sucks out the unborn baby. That, for me, is what makes this monster the scariest fairy in the world. It's just sickening what the Manananggal does. We can also see how a myth like this might have developed, as an explanation for the tragedy of miscarriage. But what makes this even more chilling is that the creature is still reported today. In 2011, Afram Matadios murdered his 6-year-old niece to prevent her from becoming a Manananggal. The way he killed the little girl was truly horrific, and I won't go into it here. So Manananggal belief can cause awful, awful crimes in the real world as well. If this is a type of demon or trick from Satan, then this is yet another way Satan is spreading evil in the world. The YouTube channel Dark Asia with Megan, which is a great channel, definitely recommend checking out. Anyway, they have a whole video about an alleged modern-day encounter with the Manananggal. There's even supposed footage of Manananggal flying through the sky. The idea that a being as evil as the Manananggal potentially exists is spine-chilling. The most recent sighting was, to my knowledge, in 2023 in Talisay City in the Philippines. 2 female miners claimed to have seen a Manananggal on the top of the roof of a neighbor's house. So keep alert. You never know what monsters may be out there, lurking in the darkness of the human heart and the shadowy places of the world.